Alright everyone, Celtic are back tomorrow, glorious, and we've got plenty to chat about ahead of the top of the table clash against Aberdeen. John wasn't able to make it, but fear not, because we got Stevie, our second option, on at short notice. How are things, Stevie?
Very well, Hamish. Very well. Just recorded and edited a podcast late at night. Brilliant. Love it. Definitely not a chore. But anyway, me and you are here, so as Brenda would say, let's get in nice and tight, nice and tight.
People are going to have no clue what we're even going on about
Just
here.
an example.
We're basically...
Just an example of the last we like to have, isn't it?
Yeah. Gig Pod, what was the gist on Gig Pod this week?
Just talk about Talksport and biscuits, mate. Nah, just about the Aberdeen game. That's it. It's quite something, isn't it? It really is a real top of the table clash. The bout to knock the other team out. It's a good old fashioned top of the table game, man. I'm looking forward to it. I think Saturday's going to be great, and Dan's looking forward to it too. I don't know anybody that's not, and there's a couple of Aberdeen fans in the work, and they're really looking forward to it too. Like, there's no like a misplaced arrogance for them, but they're just up for it. And I think, their manager, is it John or James Thulin? It'll come to me. I know, I'm only joking. It's Jimmy Thulin. He's making them believe. So it's it's got all the ingredients, Hamish, to, as you would say, very tasty fixture.
What's the official Gig Pod pronunciation of the Aberdeen manager? Can we just clarify this from the people who brought you Jablonic for Yablonets when we played them? What's the pronunciation of Jimmy Tillene, I believe?
Thulin is it official? It's pure ignorance in it. I mean, it really is such an ignorant podcast, and it's fitting that I am the host of it. But let's leave that daft podcast where it belongs. I mean, the gutter.
One of my favourite Celtic podcasts, though, I must say, linked in the description as well. So if you want to check out Gig Pod, if you've never come across Gig Pod and you like the cut of Stevie's jib, then give that a go and get Celtic AM as well while you're at it. Okay, first up, defeat for Celtic in the UEFA Women's Champions League last night, 4-0 to Real Madrid. Kind of expected. I think it was still 1-0 going into the last 20 minutes, so the scoreline a bit harsh there. Scotland international Caroline Weir among the scorers for Real. Alina Sadiku after the game said, "I think how we played football was amazing against a team like Real Madrid. I'm very proud of the team. First half we defended well and had energy from the girls. Second half we created chances and that could have changed the game. We need to be executing those better. It shouldn't have been a 4-0 loss. 2-0 would have been more acceptable. We are pointless after our first two games in our first ever UEFA Champions League group stage campaign. But still 4 games to go to pick up some points, although a double header against Chelsea up next is going to be pretty tough." In terms of the men, building ahead to Aberdeen tomorrow, confirmation that Cameron Carter-Vickers is back in training ahead of the game. This was being billed as some massive exclusive yesterday, Stevie. Brendan Rodgers said this prior to the break that Carter-Vickers would be back. But I guess we now have confirmation that he is back. We've even seen images of the fridge in training. Still need to find out about Greg Taylor and James Forrest, but it's positive to have CCV back.
Oh, of course it is. You know my thoughts on him. A player I would never criticise, even with his injury record, Hamish. But yeah, I think, and again, probably an unpopular opinion because people say, "Oh, the next game's the most important." But while it's obviously good for the game against Aberdeen, I won't lie and say that's more beneficial for the match against Atalanta. I think like trusting scales should be enough for a home game in the Premier. But I think having Cameron Carter-Vickers back in contention, to build up fitness ahead of that Atalanta game is huge because I don't fancy seeing trusting scales in Bergamo. I mean, Dortmund was just disastrous, and Atalanta just off the back, I believe a 5-1 win against Genoa, picked up a 3-0 win over Shakhtar. They look as if they're, after a bit of a stuttering start, they're really picked up pace again, and I have no doubt that they'll be flying. I think they play Venezia this weekend. I think it's Sunday they play Venezia, so I highly expect them to win that, and they'll be getting into that game against us, loads of confidence. So yeah, having Cameron Carter-Vickers back is just huge. And yeah, I know he was involved in a 6-0 loss against Atletico Madrid. No Superman or that, but just his presence there. If he's alongside Scales, you just feel as if, we'll go there and there's a potential to come away with something at least. And I'd be really feeling it with Trusty and Scales there. So aye, huge news. Alongside those, I think Taylor. Hopefully, we find out more with him. I expect Vi to play on Saturday, and Forrest too. While it's a loss, of course. I think the fact is the main men, Kuhn and Maeda, as long as they're fit and ready to start and ready to go, we should be in a right good place for it at the weekend.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about Trusty and Scales maybe as you are. I personally feel like in the Atalanta game, like I'm more worried about the overall approach from the team, and we have to see a more disciplined Celtic in that game, because if we go and press in the same unstructured way as we did against Dortmund, I think we are just going to be cut open the same way. Like if we play the same way as we did against Dortmund, we're going to be looking at another heavy defeat. There's a fair chance we will lose the game regardless, but I certainly want to see a different Celtic. There's no doubt Carter-Vickers will help that, but I don't know. For me, Liam Scales has been the outstanding centre-back so far this season. Trusty, I think, has looked all right so far. Away to Dortmund, he was struggled badly, but everyone did that night. But do you not think Carter-Vickers has to play against Aberdeen to have a chance of playing against Atalanta? You couldn't surely, after a month, put him just into the Atalanta game?
Oh, no, that would be disastrous. You can't just throw him in with no match fitness whatsoever ahead. That would be mental. Yeah, I think he has to start against Aberdeen, but I'm saying this, but I'm sure Brendan knows way more than myself, obviously. I think a couple of people in comments before actually took it seriously, that they thought that I genuinely believe more than Brendan Rodgers. Please just don't take my humour seriously, guys. But no, I think an hour or so for CCV on Saturday would be ideal. 55, 60 minutes. Hopefully he comes through that unscathed. Nice to see you. Hopefully would be a clean sheet there as well, building up the confidence. But aye, he's definitely got to start, and he's definitely got to get through it unscathed before we even think of him against Atalanta. But aye, no brainer for him to start. You can't just chuck him in if he doesn't feature against Aberdeen at all. That would be complete madness.
Agreed. What's your team for Saturday then, Stevie? Give us it.
Right, I'll go with Kasper Schmeichel in goal, of course. I would have Vi.
You start with a left back. I forget this every time, and it winds me up every time.
Does it? Maybe it's because I've got this issue where I'm left-footed but right-handed, so maybe that does something to my brain, Hamish, where I have to start on the left. I don't know, but I'll go with Vi at left back. Sorry, I'm not changing that now. CCV and Scales with Alistair Johnston. I had a chat with Dan on GigPod about this, but I think, here's one for you. My midfield for the game against Aberdeen: Cal McGregor, Arne Engels, and Luke McCowan.
Oh.
And then I would, yeah. And then I would have Maeda, Kuhn, with Furuhashi up front. Now I know it's going to be a serious bone of contention, because I actually don't think Bernardo will feature for the start at all. I think realistically it's between Hatate and McCowan, but I just feel that McCowan, and I know that Hatate has plenty of fans and people won't want to hear it, but I think McCowan has certainly done enough so far to play himself into contention for a start on Saturday, especially with his impact against Ross County. I understand there'll be a lot of arguments against it, and you could say that the way Aberdeen set up, Hatate, with plenty of space, a lot of time in the ball, and you saw Kilmarnock in the opening day of the season. Hatate revelled in that because Kilmarnock didn't want to come out; they just sat in. And Hatate, with a good 5 or 6 seconds in the ball, was able to pinpoint passes. He could do that again against Aberdeen. So there is that to consider. But I just feel McCowan definitely deserves a start. But do I think he's the strongest of our midfielders there? No. So I'm just going on form there. But that's my opinion on it. And I don't know if you agree with the midfield or not. I've got a feeling you'll maybe say Hatate should be starting for that, especially with one eye ahead on Atalanta, because, again, he could be key if we have a good result here and he puts in a good performance as well.
Yeah, I don't know if you consider the Atalanta game I'm not sure if you can really, just because this is such a big game. This is a really pretty big game for Celtic. I know it's early in the season. We're up against a team with 100% record. I would pick the best team for both games, even if you end up maybe not changing too much from game to game. You're right. I would go Real Hatate. For me, Hatate is still out of the other three options. Hatate, Bernardo, McCowan. Hatate is still for me the outstanding option. I know he's getting a lot of flack. I think a lot of it's been overblown. I think he's had good games this season, really good games this season. I think he's had all right games this season, and I think he's had poor games. He's struggling to find consistency. It's been another difficult international break for him. And I just sense that tomorrow, home game, Celtic Park, big game, it's the kind of one that he'll relish. And I just think I like Bernardo as well. I really like McCowan. I think both of them have already proven to be good summer additions. But for me, your elite midfield is still McGregor, Engels, Hatate, and that's what I want to see tomorrow. I think they've got a lovely balance between the three of them. I think the three of them will offer something different. But I won't be massively put out whatever the manager does in midfield, unless Odin Thiago Holmes starts in there or something. Like, out of the other options, McCowan starts. I think he's earned it. I think McCowan's been great so far. I don't think that's a ridiculous shout from you. Engels starts, obviously, fine. Hatate, for me, fine. Bernardo, fine as well.
I was going to say as well, do you know who Luke McCowan's first ever goal in the Premier was against?
I wonder if it was Aberdeen, Stevie, was it?
Correct. Wow. It was. He's got a good wee record against them. Don't worry about that.
Does he?
He does. Well, scored 2 goals, but still, it's not bad.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to say he had like an unbelievable goal a game type record, because that would have been a reason for him to start. Okay, so that's your team. Same as mine, apart from I have Hatate in instead of McCowan. I think that will be an interesting area. It's going to be a great afternoon. People will be watching this around the world. Some, like you, very lucky to be going, and yeah, I'm buzzing for this one. Celtic Park is going to be absolutely packed. 3:00 on a Saturday, there's going to be a sizable away support. Personally, I think there should be a bigger away support. I think equally we should get a bigger away support at the likes of Hearts, where we're going in a few weeks, and Pittodrie, obviously. I think there should be a thing in the league where for games like this you have maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000 Aberdeen fans. I think that would add so much to it. But as it is, I think 1,100 of them. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And I can't wait for this one. I really hope the team show up and put Aberdeen in their place, let's just say.
To the sword, as the tabloids would say.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I do obviously enjoy going to Celtic Park, no matter the kick-off time. But, we did have a talk about it in our chat, and I am a mark for the 5:30 kick-offs. I think this should be a showpiece event. And don't get me wrong, I know it's all decided way in advance, but you can't tell me there can't be someone there to pick this up maybe after seeing the start both sides made maybe a few weeks ago, and getting something arranged for this to be on TV and a prime time kick-off, and one for more people to watch, because I think it should be like one of the things we don't do in this country. And I've said it before, I'm not going to moan about Scotland, this isn't the time or place for it or anything like that, but we do not market or sell our game at all here. I mean, this is a showcase game. It's massive, and 2 form sides in the country going right at it. It should be one where there's more. It shouldn't just be behind that 3 p.m. blackout rule. It should be like on TV. There should be more people tuned into seeing it. But again, you can't also do. I think there was that thing with Premier Sports wanting to try and change it at the last minute, and that's no fair in people who've arranged things like way in advance, having to arrange the holidays and childcare and everything all around it. So that's well out of order there. But at the same time, there could have been something done a wee bit sooner, because I think it's going to be an amazing spectacle. And I think, generally, Aberdeen's record, I believe, I think we talked about it, didn't we? Like, their record at Celtic Park is atrocious. They've only had one win, and that was the one we practically laid down, really, in 2018.
All right, Chris.
Well, I can't really think of anything before it. I think before it, you're probably talking, 2004 maybe, they scored at the last minute. That boy John Stewart. I mean, that's that's all I can think of. But anyway, the point being, right, I know I'm getting off in one here. It's going to be an amazing game. Fans are going to be up for it. Players will be up for it. It's going to be a real buzz around the stadium. And away fans will be up for it too. It's going to be a real cracking day at Celtic Park. Looking forward to it. And I think there'll be an amazing atmosphere pre-game as well. I think, you're going to feel it that way when you're going up to the stadium. So that way you can feel and sense the atmosphere and then walk up there. I think you're going to get that on Saturday, just what it's all about. Yeah, really, really looking forward to it. And of course, even more looking forward to chatting to you after it. If I bother to turn up, that is. Rizzo did say he wants to go for a couple of drinks, so
all right.
I just have to wait and see you.
Yeah. Okay, bring Rizzo on with you if he's at the game. The two, you could come on if you.
He might not be able to look at the camera, but
just on the kickoff times, I agree. For me, 3 p.m. is for me, it's the pinnacle. That's the elite football time. I think 5:30, it's going to be on TV, is pretty good as well. Certainly bringing it earlier in the day, lunchtime, not a fan of that. I think if the game was lunchtime tomorrow at Celtic Park, it would honestly take away like a lot of the excitement I've got for it. I don't know exactly why that is. I just feel like the stadium's a bit sleepy, and I like the build up during the day, looking forward to the game. But as you say, I think 5:30 would have been fine on TV. I would have been quite up for that. But just too short notice. I think if the game was maybe a month down the line and Premier Sports were changing it, then that would have been good. But yeah, it's going to be great. How much of a test do you think Aberdeen are actually going to be? I was chatting to my pal Ryan on yesterday's video, and he wasn't quite as confident as I thought he would be. I was expecting him to come on and say, yeah, we can go and win this. And I think he was basically saying, I just don't want Aberdeen's momentum to be derailed here. Like, a draw would be amazing. Even a kind of narrow defeat might be all right.
Yeah, I think for the Aberdeen fans I was speaking to in work, they are saying best case scenario is a draw, but they just don't want to get humiliated. But I think they feel confident that they can go and, the manager will at least set them up well and, ensure that when you look at the results this season, you can't really, and they've not really blown any teams away, but at the same time, they've won all their games and they've looked as if they've had a good structured setup and, they set up pretty compact, but they break pretty quickly. But I do feel that it'll be the boy, is it Guy? I think he'll be a big miss for them. Scored 5 goals in the league already, one in the cup, 6 to his name. I think it's a long-term injury he's got, isn't it? So they're pretty much going to have to rely on Kevin Nisbet, and my thoughts on him are pretty well documented, Hamish. But they've got more than just him, obviously. I think the boy, the Finnish boy, is it
Keskinen?
What's his name again? Aye, he's good. I think they signed him for just like 900 grand or something.
Yeah.
I think he's a cracking player. Palaversa as well is not bad. So they've got players that can hurt as well. Remember, that 3 each game last season as well in the cup. It was a real 50-50. It could have went either way. So I think they are going to be a test. Like, I think Celtic on their day, Hamish, and without being arrogant, they're out of order with it. I think on our day we've got a better team, and we're overwhelming favourites for it. But I think you've got to definitely respect Aberdeen and where they are. They're definitely there on merit. And what I was saying on GigPod as well was that all week you haven't heard their manager or any of their players really be in the papers and bump it up and be wide or try to play mind games. They seem as if they've been really focused on the task at hand. Compare that to another team who are usually facing off with in these type of games, and how they just love to shout their mouth off. So already there's a total respect there for the fact that they're not doing that, and they'll obviously do their talking in the pitch. But while I've mentioned there is total respect towards Aberdeen and they're there where they are in merit, I genuinely do really strongly fancy Celtic. I really do. I don't think it will be like a 4 or 5-0 job at all, but I do feel Celtic, with the players they've got and the resources at their disposal, and on the bench, Hamish, that's a big one. The players we've got to come on to change a game, I think, is massive. So I think that will be the main difference between the teams.
I think it's going to be a really tough game tomorrow. I could be wrong, been wrong in the past, but I really don't think it's going to be a 3-4, 5-0 type game, as much as that would be amazing. And I'd obviously sign up for that, and that'd be a hell of a statement from the team. I think it's going to be a really tight game, and I think Aberdeen are going to bring a lot to the game. And I think it might be a narrow victory. It might be a real kind of nervy afternoon. I think there might be a fair bit of difficulty for us to deal with during the game, adversity in that match. And I think it's important the support stick with the team, because this is a good Celtic team. And I'm just looking forward to it. And I don't know if that's a controversial statement, but part of me is kind of wanting it to be a real test tomorrow. I kind of want it to be I want Aberdeen to turn up and not completely, fall by the wayside and be absolutely awful. I want to actually find out that Aberdeen are a good side, because I think it's good for Scottish football for us to be tested. Obviously tested to an extent. I don't want them to go and beat us tomorrow. Obviously, it goes without saying. I want Celtic to win and ideally win by as many as possible. But equally, I'd like it to be a real challenge for the team, because I think that's only good for Scottish football if there's another team who can give us good games, because there's big games coming up against Aberdeen. Any final thoughts in the game, and then we can move on to something else?
Yeah, just what you said. I agree. I hope it is like a really tight game, a real battle, one of the ones that we are the winners. But it's well earned, and Aberdeen, without sounding condescending here, but genuinely do play their part, and I think it would be good for the game here. But ultimately, as long as we get the 3 points, that's all that matters, Hamish. Yeah, I know how cliched they sound there, but it's the truth.
Right, okay, that's tomorrow. Just before we finish, a bit of news from yesterday. Aiden McGeady has retired from playing. Played 231 times for Celtic, scored 36 goals, 4 league titles, 2 Scottish Cups and a League Cup. He won virtually every personal award available in Scotland, most for the 2007-08 season, when he was quite brilliant. Also played for Sunderland and Hibs and Spartak Moscow, and obviously the Republic of Ireland. Many caps for them. Pretty good career. What favourite Aiden McGeady memory?
I think that turn that he had.
That's what I thought of as well. Yeah, for Scott McDonald.
That was, there was genuinely so many amazing moments like McGeady gave us. Like, was at times in that 07-08 season, like, he carried us.
Benfica goal.
Aye, but the one that took it was like pinball, about 50 deflections.
Yeah.
But even when you look at like his record and everything too, like weighed in with quite a few goals. I don't think he in fact, and I think in a season, don't think he ever did like hit more than 9 from what I can see. But his assists were fantastic, and I think he could play on either side. He was both footed as well. I think Aiden McGeady, on his day, was a total joy to watch, and I think that was the one that just stands out. That wee turn that he did up at Pittodrie when he set up Scott McDonald, absolutely fantastic. Brilliant.
I loved him scrapping with Neil Lennon. Was it Dunfermline away when we conceded a late goal? We were still won the game, but Neil Lennon, Aiden McGeady scrapping. I did a TikTok last week with Ekfor Enda's own TikTok channel, Stevie, and I was getting pelters from the TikTok generation, because it was one of these this or that ones. So you're like given 2 players, like, so for example, Larson or Kyogo, and you'd have to say who your favourite was, and the choice was McGeady or Jota, and I said McGeady, and I was getting pelters because people were saying, no chance, Jota was clear, as the kids would say, of McGeady. That's not a ridiculous shout, is it? Like, I mean, I love Jota, but McGeady did more in the Champions League.
I would personally go with Jota, but
okay,
I don't
so
think
it was a ridiculous shout.
No, I think definitely. I think it's a fair opinion. I thought McGeady was great. I mean, another thing, that 2009 Cup final, he ran it. He was magnificent that day.
Yeah.
We beat Rangers 2-0. We scored a penalty, but remember he won the penalty when Broadfoot, like, he skinned him and get hauled down. But see, that day, McGeady was fantastic, and a great Celtic career he had, and did relatively well by actually getting away to Russia and having a go over there and then down in the Premier. So all the very best to him. Celtic, great.
Okay, enjoy your day tomorrow, Stevie. Hope it goes well. We'll chat to you afterwards.
Aye, look forward to it, brother. I'll see you then.
Perfect, and big thanks to Stevie for stepping in and coming on. We'll catch up with John and the rest of the gang pretty soon. We'll speak to Stevie again tomorrow after the game. Remember to give us a wee sub if you've not done it yet. Around half of you aren't subscribed, so if you're able to do that, it would be much appreciated. Check the podcast out on your favourite podcast app, links in the description, and we will speak to you after the game tomorrow. Come on, Celtic.